Good afternoon. Hi, this is Audrey with the Creator's Attic. I have come today to show you how I make these simple little books out of the most simple little objects that you will probably have hanging out around the house. These are not items that are very hard to come by if you don't have them around the house. But I just want to share this idea with you today. These are little playing card. These actually are made out of playing cards, and I've used some of my prettier playing cards that I have. This one I think I'm going to use today for demonstration purposes. It's of a beautiful Victorian looking lady, or maybe she's maybe not quite as old as Victorian, but just an antique looking card. This is actually, I think, a almost antique card. It's a vintage card. But anyway, I have taken this and a simple 4x6 index card and made these cute little booklets out of them. These are great. They can be tucked into a journal, put in a pocket in a journal, or a tuck. Or maybe you can put it in a little, slide it on a little belly band, or so many ideas. Or you can just leave it to stand alone to put in your purse or something. But these are great. You don't have to have coffee dyed cards like I have. I've coffee dyed these cards, but you don't have to do that. You can also just use the white card and ink around the edges. And so we'll just take a look at one of these. This one, I used some broken jewelry pieces and some trim that I had, and inside I lined it with some antique music paper that I have. You can use book pages. You don't even have to do the insides with anything. You can decorate it how you want. I put a washi sticker here, and I had some cut-offs from some journals I was making of coffee dyed paper, and I just inked around these and put these in pages in, but you can use any pages that you have. And here I sewed them in. This one I sewed in with the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, but this cute little booklet I didn't. I sewed down the middle with my sewing machine. You could also probably staple these in and then cover the staples with trim, but I prefer, since I have the means, just to sew them in. I think it gives it a little bit of an extra touch. I've used some liquid pearls here on this one, and just some lace trim, some stamps on the back. Here I used French book page and some stickers. It's a little French boy on this one. This one is the same with just a different items, just a few different items, but the same basic concept. She was painting fruits, I believe, on the front, so I put an avocado on the back and something kind of to go along with the theme. But you can do so much with these. Let's get started. So basically, I have gone ahead and brought in some of these not vintage, they're vintagey looking index cards, 4x6, that I coffee dyed. And if you would like to learn how to coffee dye these index cards in a very simple way, just put in the comments down below, and if you want to see that, I can do a video on that. But these are just so pretty, and they just come out so beautiful to me. So okay, so let's get started. First of all, I'm going to set up my basic booklet. So I'm going to get my gluing mat here, that I call it. These little you can tear these out of magazines instead of throwing these away. You can get some good use out of them. So basically, the first thing I'm going to do is grab my card, and I am going to fold it. So I'm going to get my corners to match here on my card, corners matching. And I'm just going to take that and I think I'm going to use my bone folder just to get this down just a little bit more. Okay, the next thing I want to do is take my music paper and decide what part I want to use on this one. This one has lots of notes and stuff on it, so I think I want to use this to cover my inside pages. So I am going to glue this part on. So I'm going to take the inside of my playing card. Now you don't have to use you don't have to cover this inside. It's pretty like it is, but I'm going to do this since I did it on the others. Now I'm going to glue around with my Scotch Create glue stick. Let me see if I can get this in so you can see it. Scotch Create glue stick. It's a permanent multi-purpose glue stick, and I love this. It's one of my favorite things to use when I craft it, because it will glue fabric onto paper. It will glue paper with paper and fabric with paper, you know, just the combo. And make sure that you get your edges really well, and especially the spine part, the part that's going to be your spine, where it's going to fold in the middle. Now on the inside, okay, I'm actually just going to flip this over, and I'm going to I have a clean slate. I'm going to bring in my music paper where, and let's see, I wanted to use this side with the notes. Either way, the great thing about music paper is I can use the lines to line up how my card, so the music will be straight on here. So you could also line up, I guess, the tops of words with book pages, but with the music paper I'm just going to kind of lay it down and get this top score line kind of where I want it, right on the top score line, and basically just lay it down here. And this is the front of my card, so I'm gluing the inside of my card. Now, some of these pages, this page in particular lends itself to having a quality, because it is so old that it will pretty much, if I fold it with my card like this, where my card is, it will pretty much tear itself because it just basically crumbles. But if not, you can just cut around the edges with your scissors and just use your card as, you know, where you want to cut. And making sure that I have this glued well, so when these do come off, that these do fold off like this, that they will, you will get it to where it will catch. It won't have any of my index cards showing through, so I'm gonna go like this. Okay, and I do still have some edges peeking up. I can see them. So basically, just to do this, you could use your scissors, or you could use this sanding block, like a little sanding block that you can get at like Lowe's or Home Depot or probably Walmart. I'm just gonna sand it. So this is the cover of my book. I'm gonna just kind of sand it so I don't see these pages very much. So it's from the inside peeking through at me. And if I glue down all my edges, they shouldn't pop up while I'm sanding. Okay, so now I have this, and if this wants to come up like this, that's okay, because we can ink around the top with some ink. And since I've gone ahead and folded my card here, when I flip this over and these meet, the paper will go ahead and bend with me, and in this case it will probably crack and break, but that's okay because I'm going to ink down the middle for a little vintage look anyway. Okay, so a more definition I want to put around the corners. So I'm going to grab, let's see, I have black notes, but my card has gold and it's brown. I'm going to go with a darker color. Let's see what I have over here, like a dark brown. You could use walnut stain, or I haven't used, let's go with, actually, instead of walnut stain, I'm going to try a different color. I'm going to go with frayed burlap. This is Distress Ink by Ranger. It's the Tim Holtz Distress Ink. And I'm going to take my little ink dauber that I have, if I can find it. Here it is. Okay. And I'm just going to simply ink around the edges of my book. And I'll go ahead and tell you, you will need a to cut some paper by 5.5 across by 3 3/4 inches tall, and for the inside you can cut them anywhere within that size range that you want to, but that's the size that I use, and they're just all the same size. So I may do a little bit of hewing. That's where you kind of frame in a little bit, frame in your card. I put a little bit of extra here, and maybe a little bit up here, or just kind of a little bit more just kind of gives a more attention inward into the inside of the card. It just adds just a little bit of an extra touch, but you can just do this however you want. And also you can use different color inks. You don't have to use the colors that I'm using that maybe coincide with the colors on your card, so that's an option. Okay, now I'm going to ink down the middle too, because it adds, when I have the fold, it just really adds a nice, like, kind of makes it stand out, and you can see that there are two sides to the book. Okay, so now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and take my pages. Now I went ahead and cut these out, and I did ink around the edges some, and I saved one so we could ink together. And I think I'm going to use a different color besides frayed burlap to go around my edges. With my coffee dyed papers, I like to use gathered twigs. You can use vintage photo if you want, but the vintage photo, I just like the little bit darker color, and I've done 3 out of 4 pages, and I'm going to use 4. You can use less or more if you want to put in these, but I find 4 gives me 16 pages front and back. So I'm going to grab my ink dauber again, and I use the same brown dauber for all of my browns. Some people like to keep them separate, and that's okay too. And I actually just don't mind kind of cross-contaminating a little bit my browns, because I really don't notice that that much of a difference from one brown turning any brown like a different color. So kind of just keep them in families. Okay, so some of this already looks inked around the edges because of it was coffee dyed, but I did cut some of this out of pages so the edges are not don't have this lovely line that naturally do from coffee dyeing. Because when you coffee dye, and the edges will naturally darken, and you'll get this look anyway. But anyway, I'm just going to take these now. I'm going to use 4, and I'm going to match the corners together and fold them. And folding them individually gives me a little bit more of a better fit for them going into the journal than if I just folded them all at once. They just seem to kind of fit better into the journal. Okay, so get this one and this one. Now you're gonna need to, you can sew these, or I'm going to show the 3-hole pamphlet stitch on these because I just want to add a little bit of an extra touch. So now that I have these, and I will put them in the book about where I want them, and I'm going to make sure the fold goes with that fold, and it's about where I want it. And I'm going to clip these in, and I like using, you can use paper clips. I also prefer to use these binder clips actually, because they tend to really grab your pages and hold them in place where you put them, where the paper clip they can kind of slide in and out. But this kind of just grips it, and it doesn't leave a mark on these papers. I've never had a problem with that. If you're using certain other types of papers, you may want to just make sure that they aren't going to leave a mark. But I just did what I was trying not to do, slide these papers around. Okay, so let me get these in. Okay, here we go. Now I am going to want to, I have my spine here, so I'm going to make sure that these are where I want them, like I just said. Okay, just wanting to fight with me today for some reason. Okay, and for a lighter project like this, you can use embroidery thread. I wouldn't suggest using that on your bigger journals because I don't think it would break unless you use several strands of it to kind of strengthen. But for this purpose, you can choose an embroidery thread. And let me just grab my embroidery thread. There we go. Simple embroidery thread, and I'm going to go with just the neutral. Okay, so as with bigger journals, you're going to measure your string out 3.5 times is a good rule of thumb. 3.5 times the length of your page. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and about half, and I know there. So I'm going to clip this off. And I'm going to use my needle. Now this one is a blunt tipped needle. It is a little over 2.5 inches long. It has this big eye that is great for people that have a little bit harder time threading needles like I do, because I can't see as well as other people can. Lots of other people can, but there we go. It's easy to thread. Just go on through like this. Now I'm going to decide where, I don't even have to mark in here where I want my my holes like you do in other journals. It's just already kind of, you can just do it all at once. So I'm going to go I like to go a little above middle in the midway section to start, because that way I know my top from bottom. From my top to my middle is going to be a little bit shorter than my top to bottom. I mean middle to bottom. So start in the middle, a little above, and you can just push through. Here we go, like this. Come through. Now if you wanted to put the string on the, have the string on the start going, originally put your middle hole through the middle, and to where your string will tie on the outside, and maybe and you want to see the tie on the knot on the outside, you start from the outside. But I want mine to tie on the center, so I'm going to start from the center. Then I'm going to go up, and I'm going to make sure that's going to be about where I want it. There we go. Oh, and I forgot to ink this center. You can ink the center of the pages too to give it a little bit more of a look. Actually, I can probably still do that. More of a defined look using, there we go. This will be mostly though covered up by the thread, so anyway, but that's something you can do extra. Okay, come down. All right, I'm gonna come down from the top, go past the middle and down towards the bottom where I want it. Push it through, make sure it comes out where the spine is in the middle. And come on, work with me. There we go. All right, now I'm gonna go back through the same hole, original hole that I made. I say I'm going to. Okay, there we go. Now, when I come back through, I want to make sure that I'm going to come, all right, this side, this tail is on this side of the string that goes down the middle, and this one I'm going to have it come out on this side so that when I tie it, I will have them on either side. See how I have it, this one, and it's dividing each of these so I can tie it and get all of my strings securely in. So let's make sure I don't have any, okay, that's good. I want to make sure that I don't have any, sometimes the thread will, you know, if you don't pull it tight enough, sometimes it won't be as, it won't, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. It won't come all the way through, and some will be hanging out outside here, and it won't, then when your pages will be all wobbly. So I just double check that. And I'm going to go over again, and then another for good measure, trying to tie in the opposite directions. And then you can leave this if you want, so you can put a dangle from it, a little charm on the end, or some beads. That would be cute, but I'm just going to trim this one a little bit and leave it. Now I can take my clips off. So I have my basic booklet now. So here's the front cover and the inside, and my pages are sewed in now. So now I'm ready to decorate. This is kind of wanting to come up on me a little bit. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna sand that off because it's peeking up over the top. I missed some. Let me see if I need to go back in, yeah, and just ink it a little bit where I did sand it off. These things happened in the crafting world, and you just have to kind of learn how to overcome them by, see, that one's doing it. It's picking up. Didn't see that before. It's okay. Can I get a little bit more ink? And I used frayed burlap. Where did it go? Okay. Come back over the top. There we go. Okay, now the outside, you can ink around the outside edges if you want, but I want to get my card down and see what colors I have. Okay, so I have like a reddish color. I have some green colors in here, and I think I want to use maybe a little bit of black on the outside, since there's to pick up some of the black in her dress. So let me grab my black dauber that I have somewhere. It's hiding. I haven't used it recently. Okay, here we go. My black one, and I'm going to use black soot distress ink, and I'm going to use, I have this one in a mini. Colors that I don't tend to use as much I have in minis, and actually I probably should get a bigger black soot, but anyway, this one will work because I have been using black a little bit more. And you can do the same thing with the hewing. I wait to decorate the ink, the outside one of the book, just because I want to get all that inside stuff done, so I'm not smearing any decorations or anything that I've glued on the outside previously. I just want to go ahead and get that inside, basic inside done. so I'm not worried about messing anything up on the outside. And goodness, if you had put your liquid pearls on the outside, that would be a disaster. All right, so I'm just waiting. Okay, so I have done the black around here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my playing card. Well, actually, you know what? Before I do that, a smart thing would be to decide what I'm going to do on the back of this. Now, I have not pre-decided how I want to decorate this, so you're going along for the ride with me on this. Let's see. I look at this card and kind of want to just see what it kind of evokes in me. It's kind of just like vintagey. You know what? I think I may want to I'm going to grab my peg stamps. Let me grab those real quick. Okay. These peg stamps I found on Etsy, and they're just very handy. I think for smaller projects, I think I have to use a little sewing machine here. That looks kind of vintagey. But I am really thinking about I know I have an old-timey telephone. Let me see. Would that be too? That may be. I just want to do that. Hang on. I have more. There are more. There are actually drawers and drawers and drawers of different stamps. But I think I just want to use this telephone for some reason. It just seems like she might be picking up a call on this telephone. I wonder if this old-timey telephone. So let's see. I'm going to go with black, because these phones were usually that I've seen were black. Put this on the back. There we go. Okay. Got a little telephone. It still looks kind of lonely on the back. I wonder if I want to use a little bit of some of my paddle brushes to kind of bring this out a little bit. Her dress is red, and I don't want to really use bright red, but she has different shades of red in her dress here. So let me go with, I don't know if I want to go with fired brick, or maybe I might want to go with aged mahogany, because this one seems to have a little bit more of a pinker color in it. Not pink, but more pinkish. Then this one seems to have a little more of an orangey color. Make a decision. If you don't know exactly what it's going to look like, if you're not exactly sure, you can always take an extra piece of paper that's similar in color, like this, a little offcut, and decide. So I'm going to grab these are my paddle brushes. These work great for covering larger areas. So say I had wanted to use this to maybe cover up my white card and do it all in one color. I could have just used the paddle brush to do that, and I would have could have colored it what I wanted. And the smaller ones are easier to add definition. Now this video is going to have 2 parts because it's easier to upload with things with under half an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and end this part of the video. This is part 1, but there will be a part 2. So I'm going to go ahead and end that now, and I'll see you in part 2.